Madam Speaker, while there have been several written and comprehensive national security strategy and plans and crime plans, none of them have had system-wide implementation. In 2017, my administration brought together the myriad of security strategies and agencies under an institutionalized National Security Council as a committee of cabinet to coordinate and direct the implementation of a national master plan of action to secure Jamaica. Plan Secure Jamaica focuses efforts on 10 discrete strategic subject areas. These are violence and crime, public order, community safety, justice, crisis response and resilience, corruption, territorial integrity, cyber defense, critical infrastructure protection, and economic and environmental security. In all of these 10 areas, there are cross-cutting strategies to improve the legislative framework, improve leadership and management of the various responsible agencies, increase funding for capital and human capacity development, develop mutually aligned partner support, digitize and integrate technology, and develop local community participation and stakeholder support and ownership. Madam Speaker, legislatively, under Plan Secure Jamaica, we have created a new regime for illegal firearms. Since its passage in November last year, 247 persons have been charged with illegal possession of a prohibited firearm under the new Firearms Act. We are in the process of passing a new bail act. We have tabled amendments to Offences Against the Person Act to increase the minimum penalty for murder, and will soon introduce further amendments to align the penalties for associated offences. Amendments to the Fingerprint Act are being completed for tabling in the coming fiscal year. A new offender management policy and corrections bill is being prepared to further protect our borders, our revenues, and our economy. We are now updating our Customs Act, and Jamaica Customs is now a permanent member of the National Security Council. And through this more strategic cooperation, over 81 weapons have been discovered coming into the country since the start of the year.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
4:30.
This broadcast of Prime Minister Andrew Holness's budget presentation is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister and the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation.
Madam Speaker, in terms of resources, we can safely say that no other administration has spent more on security than we have. After years of neglect and underinvestment in the capital budget and building human capacity, the ongoing transformation of the JCF and the JDF is visible. The government has spent on average $9.7 billion on capital investments in national security over the last 8 years since 2016, compared with approximately $3.2 billion over the 8-year period prior to 2016. We have invested 3 times as much in security than any previous administration. But sadly, Madam Speaker, still there is a long way to go to build the capacity of the JCF, JDF, and MOCA to be at the level where it can effectively control and reduce crime in a sustainable way. I want you to consider this, Madam Speaker, that one drug bust could amount to sometimes as much as 10% of the capital budget. Now, what we are tackling, Madam Speaker, I would wish that there would be greater national consensus so that we can truly get around this problem. Nevertheless, Madam Speaker, we can report significant progress in the build-out of our security forces. The JCF of today is not the same JCF of 10 years ago. Under Project Rock, which is to repair, Minister, you remind me, is to repair and overhaul and construct Project Rock. 134 police facilities out of a targeted 200 facilities have either been newly built, refurbished, expanded, or in progress. I can identify with the investment, Madam Speaker, in police infrastructure. In my own constituency, the new Olympic Gardens police station was built. Additionally, I opened and renovated and expanded Port Antonio police station and broke ground for the new Stony Hill police station. It's not only police stations, additional classrooms and the medical service branch of the National Police College of Jamaica was constructed, and the Police Emergency Communication Center was relocated to improve facilities. This year, we will start the process to construct a new divisional headquarters in Spanish Town for St. Catherine North Police Division and a new police station for Westmoreland, for the Westmoreland Division. By the end of the project, this administration would have significantly improved the built infrastructure of the JCF, improved the working conditions of its members, and the quality of service to the public. This major budget commitment is being used as well to modernize and expand the JCF and its capabilities. The expansion of the JCF's radio communication and microwave network should be noted. The implementation of the station's records management system, which is now being rolled out at 23 locations across the island currently, with another 120 locations to go live by the end of 2023-2024 fiscal year. The acquisition of the multi-biometric identification system to facilitate efficient processing of criminal records. The implementation of the e-ticketing system with over 800 electronic ticketing machines in the hands of the traffic police island-wide, already accounting for more than half the tickets issued to date. But the big one, Madam Speaker, the big one, the procurement of a C5, Command Communications, Computation, Control, and Coordination Center that will massively increase situational awareness and response capabilities by connecting and integrating Jamaica Eye, other communication systems, traffic management systems, and other public safety electronic systems to one intelligence processing area. Madam Speaker, the JCF has also increased its investment in recruitment and training capabilities over the last 3 years. As a result, the size of the force has increased from approximately 11,000 to close to 13,000 over the past 2 years, coming close to its establishment of 14,000. On average, the JCF is now recruiting 1,250 trainees per year under this improved training system. Approximately 400 to 450 members retire or otherwise leave the force per year. So currently, we net approximately 800 additional members per year. For the first time in decades, we are growing the force, not only in the number of recruits, but in the quality of the personnel joining. Madam Speaker, persons who know about standard setting and quality management might be surprised to hear this. But the JCF has taken on the ambitious task of becoming ISO 9001 certified. And it has received its first certification last year. The ISO 9001 is a rigorous international standard for quality management systems for organizations. Not many local organizations have this certification, and our JCF has received certification in this regard. Madam Speaker, transformation does not happen overnight. The change is sometimes so discreet, it is imperceptible, especially when the change is happening internally. Madam Speaker, we are not bringing any consultants from abroad. We are not bringing any, police from abroad for us to model. This is all being done internally and locally. The JCF as an organization has incredible resources. Resources in IT, in human resource management, obviously resources in security, but they have resources in construction. They have all kinds of skills. It's a multifaceted organization. It is a national asset, and we should invest in it and build it and make it strong. So, Madam Speaker, I wish to commend the Commissioner of Police and thank the hardworking men and women of the JCF for their committed effort and dedicated service to the country. Madam Speaker, I'll say a few words about the JDF as Minister of Defense and Chairman of the National Security Council. The JDF is critical to all lines of effort in Plan Secure Jamaica. You know, Madam Speaker, the leader of the opposition spoke about the militarization of our security forces. By the way, it's the same leader of the opposition who called for more boots on the ground. If there is ever any problem in his constituency, which we have similar constituencies, the call is more boots on the ground. However, Madam Speaker, the leader of the opposition pointed out that we have made massive investments in the JDF. You know, Madam Speaker, last night I received a call from someone who heard your comment, leader of the opposition. And she said to me, don't pay him any mind. No, listen to what she said. Because if it was left up to him alone, her house would burn down. Madam Speaker, it's a profound point, and I don't mean any, but the point has to be made. Madam Speaker, the JDF has flown over 300 missions to out fires. That would have destroyed several times over the value of what we spend. Madam Speaker, it is a lack of understanding of how we must build these institutions. They are not just there to fight crime. Security is not just about crime. Security is about resilience. It's about recovery. It's about protecting your environmental assets. It's about protecting your borders, protecting your fisheries. And to do that, you need institutions like the JDF and the JCF with the resources and the capacity to be able to respond. They never had it before. When we took over, they didn't even have 2 good offshore patrol vessels. There was just fishing in our waters and our fishermen can't get anything. All kinds of drugs passing through our waters. Guns coming in. And that's why we build the capacity to be able to respond. So, Madam Speaker, let us not pour cold water on the investment in the JDF. When the times get difficult, yes, if there was ever a natural disaster, God forbid, you need that capacity to respond. So, Madam Speaker, the JDF continues to support the JCF in security operations generally and within zones of special operations. And along with the efforts of the Joint Anti-Gang Task Force, they have yielded the recovery of over 350 illegal guns. In the specialized area of cybersecurity, the JDF is establishing a cyber academy to train personnel and create a professional cyber workforce for cybersecurity and defense for the Jamaican government and for industry. This is an area in which we are woefully short of skills, and the first cohort should commence working in the coming fiscal year. In the coming fiscal year, the JDF will take delivery of 2 additional offshore patrol vessels to strengthen maritime domain awareness and control over our territorial waters. The maritime capacity continues to bear fruit in combating the illicit drug trade and organized crime and protecting our fishing stock and other maritime assets. The JDF is also managing the ongoing build-out of the coastal surveillance system that includes long-range radars to help secure our 1,022-kilometer coastline and our global maritime distress and safety system, which gives us greater domain awareness to our Coast Guard to provide security to users of our waters, as well as search and rescue capabilities. Madam Speaker, the Jamaica National Service Corps, a program that is dear to my heart, remains one of our most critical post-school efforts for youth engagement. To date, 5,242 Jamaican youth have been trained through the JNSC. 3,447 have transitioned into the regular branch of service of the JDF. Graduates of the JNSC program receive certification, which gives them a competitive advantage in the labor market. The JNSC graduates some JNSC graduates have transitioned into the JCF recruitment program and other public sector and private sector entities. In 2022, 491 JNSC applicants or participants successfully completed their 1-year training and entered the regular JDF. Currently, there are 1,066 JNSC recruits in varying stages of the program. Madam Speaker, after 6 years of operation, the JNSC is a model that works in creating a pool of skilled and trainable workers in the fields of security, logistics, engineering, vocational trades, and information technology. It is now time to scale up this program in a significant way as one of our strategies to reintegrate our unattached youth into the workforce and divert them from joining gangs.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
4:45.
This broadcast of Prime Minister Andrew Holness's budget presentation is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister and the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation.
As the country approaches full employment, we must ensure that our out-of-school population is directed into the workforce with work-ready skills, knowledge, and attitude. In a quick summary, Madam Speaker, Jamaica recorded 63 murders in 1962. But violence has always been a part of our history of enslavement and colonialism. As we emerge as an independent nation struggling to build our economy and overcome poverty and social inequality, violence became a pronounced feature of our social struggle through the use of politically organized and related violence. The association with violence, with politics, in some ways, legitimize the producers of violence. The association with politicians legitimize violence producers. Though our politics eventually matured away from using violence, by then violence generally and organized violence in particular had become an aggravating feature of crime. Madam Speaker, I want to pause at this point. We have had success in treating with violence before. It happened when there was consensus, when we agreed that we could not allow the electoral system to be infiltrated and influenced by violence. And we agreed to form the Electoral Commission. We can do it. We can do it. Think about it. Elections from 72, 76, 80, well, 83, but 89, and into the 90s, they were violent. But we changed it. I offer, again, my hand in consensus. we have to come to a consensus on how to treat with violence. By the 1990s, organized intentional fatal violence, which is gang-related murders mostly, escalated as gangs started to use violence in furtherance of the regional narcotics trade. By 2005, 43 years after independence, when we only had 63 murders, Jamaica recorded its highest murder tally of 1,647. Violence as a social disease and a behavioral problem has become a public health crisis of epidemic proportions. On top of this social context, violence is now a dominant feature of crime, particularly fatal violence organized by gangs in furtherance of their criminal enterprise. Both streams of violence have devastating impact on the quality of life and security of the citizens. However, violence in its organized form, pursuing criminal enterprises, be it drug trade, lottery scamming, extortion, human trafficking, guns trafficking, counterfeit goods, cyber crimes, or turf war, is now at a level where it is a threat to the effective functioning of the state. By any definition, the current situation is not acceptable in a free and democratic country and can only be described as a state of emergency. Madam Speaker, this administration has seen the problem for what it is and has implemented a comprehensive program of policy and legislative reform, institutional building and governance, increased investment in infrastructure and capacity, along with more tactile responses of increased policing and use of emergency powers. What has taken 60 years to manifest will not be corrected overnight, and we understand that it is a process. Just as we overcame violence as a feature of our politics by pursuing electoral reform and building institutions of the ECJ and making the budget allocations to fund it, similarly, I am confident that with the reforms, the institution building and funding that we have dedicated, we will overcome social violence and organized violence and crime. We will restore Jamaica to the peaceful, respectful, loving, civil, and pro-social values we embraced in 1962 as an independent nation. Madam Speaker, I am committed to this. Madam Speaker, a quick word on energy. We cannot overemphasize the vital role that energy plays in growth and socio-economic development, and we must increase our resilience and ability to withstand shocks through careful policy approaches. In 2022, the electric vehicle strategic framework, as well as governing fiscal policy, was approved by Cabinet, and the order governing importation of electric vehicles was issued. However, it restricted the importation of cars and it restricted the importation to only cars and SUVs. The government will be removing that restriction to include a wider range, including electric motorbikes. And Madam Speaker, we have a demonstration of some of the electric motorbikes. They're right in the foyer. And they're quite efficient, and they last long and comfortable. And they're powerful. They're surprisingly powerful. Madam Speaker, the only thing is that they don't make any noise. And of course, no emissions. Madam Speaker, Jamaica has increased its energy, its renewable energy, more than 4 integrated resource plan 2 that will outline the roadmap for achieving 50% renewables by 2030. No fossil fuel plants are contemplated under IRP2, meaning, Madam Speaker, that under this new integrated resource plan, we will not be approving any more fossil fuel based electricity generation. So IRP2 has outlined another 2,050 megawatts of potential renewable resources island-wide and considers wind, hydro, solar, and battery energy storage systems as the most cost-efficient options to achieve 50% by 2030. The draft IRP2 is now being presented to various stakeholders for discussion and feedback. Thereafter, it will be finalized and presented to Cabinet for consideration and approval. Madam Speaker, as we undertake this transition, it must be undertaken very carefully, as the changing mix and natural intermittency of these renewable resources can create challenges for the grid, and we need, Madam Speaker, to balance supply and demand. It is not simply a question of building more solar or wind power. We must ensure that when we build them, if there is any interruption, that our grid does not collapse. So, Madam Speaker, we are taking the proper approach of planning how we integrate renewables into our network. Madam Speaker, I'll say a quick word about climate change. For developing nations such as Jamaica, the issue of climate change is a particularly relevant one. Small island developing states like Jamaica have limited impact on driving the rate of climate change. We are, however, the ones most at risk and bearing the brunt of the crisis. The fact that 70% of Jamaica's population lives within 5 kilometers of the sea highlights the great risk we face from sea level rise. The current drought and the exponential increase in fire should make it self-evident that we are already experiencing the impacts of climate change. We are already seeing the impacts of slow onset events such as saltwater intrusion in our wells, deteriorating soil quality, and lower pollination rates, and we are at risk always from catastrophic weather events such as hurricanes. Jamaica is not sitting by idly. We are strategically addressing our inherent vulnerabilities with the appropriate focus on building resilience while honoring our moral obligation to reduce our emissions. Madam Speaker, Jamaica has been a strong voice on the international stage in advocating for climate justice and increased mobilization of climate finance, particularly for small island developing states. In 2018, I represented the government of Jamaica at the request of the Secretary General of the United Nations, together with the President of France, Emmanuel Macron, and the Emir of Qatar, to lead a political initiative to mobilize climate financing to support the implementation of the Paris Agreement. Last year, as co-chair of the NDC partnership with the United Kingdom, we launched a new global finance strategy aimed at mobilizing current funding for climate action. Madam Speaker, the next phase of Jamaica's development must be designed through the climate lens and must include a macroeconomic strategy that builds resilience in all facets of national life and to adapt to this existential threat. Madam Speaker, in partnership with the Coalition of Climate Resilience Investment, the Green Climate Fund, United Kingdom Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, and Oxford University, we have designed an analytic and predictive tool to assist in decision making around climate resilient infrastructure investment. Jamaica is the first country globally to use this systemic risk assessment tool, or we call it JSART, to evaluate the strength of infrastructure as it relates to climate events.
You've been listening to the contribution of the Prime Minister to the national budget debate. We thank you very much for staying with us here on both sides of the story. Horror 106 FM. As we wrap, it will be well, we'll Right. So we will wrap right now today's edition of Both Sides of the Story here on Power 106 FM, and Power 106 FM's coverage continues. In the meantime, this is Dervan Malcolm on behalf of Adrian Reed and the team, wishing you a good afternoon, and all things being well, both sides of the story returns tomorrow afternoon, 2 to 5. Till then, this is Dervan Malcolm saying thanks for making it both sides of the story.
Our platform will provide necessary information to update communities and emergency responders on the threat of fires. The use of a common alerting protocol and continuous public education are vital elements in the fight against bushfires. So, Madam Speaker, the graph, the heat map currently being displayed shows you the risk areas for bushfires and where bushfires are happening in Jamaica. Madam Speaker, our commitment also spans support to public to the public transport sector. And I want to pause here and use the opportunity to thank the German federal government for its international climate initiative, which provides a grant of approximately 4 million euros to support e-mobility to Jamaica. The project will seek to introduce new and disruptive technologies leading to long-term emission reductions accompanied by capacity building measures. Madam Speaker, allow me to update the House on the gains made in modernizing the country's environmental policy and legislative frameworks.
You're listening to Power 106 FM, the time